What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the KindaFunny Xcast, your home for all things Xbox here at KindaFunny. Of course, I'm one of your hosts, Snowbike Mike, and this week only one of my gaming dads is here, Mr. Parris Lilly, rocking with me. Gary Whitta had some last moment things to do. He had to step out, so we called in a guest who, of course, I'll introduce in just a second. But Parris, it's good to see you again. How are you, my guy?
Oh, I'm doing fantastic. How are you doing?
I'm good, Parris. We were talking a little bit about March Madness. Brackets are being busted. Basketball is on TV all day, every day. And I absolutely love that. So I've been enjoying some ball in my life, which is all good with me. How about yourself? You been watching any?
No, I haven't. Like we were kind of talking a little bit offline. It's like I used to be a college basketball junkie, like knew every team from every conference, players, all that stuff. But I would say in the last 10 years, I've just kind of fallen off from it. And like I was telling you, I think a lot of it is just because the best players have been one and done. So I've just not kept up with it the way I used to. Like, once it gets to like Sweet 16, stuff like that, I'll start watching. But as far as who the best teams are, I know Gonzaga was number one. That's about all I know. And I know San Diego State lost yesterday, so that's all I know.
The best part about March Madness is, of course, all the fun in basketball. But you get the killer song, One Shining Moment, right? Everybody loves that. You get awesome Charles Barkley commercials. So it's always a fun time. And also, Miles, I see you smiling over there. And I can't wait to introduce you. But one thing that I love, of course, NCAA football making its return. One thing that not many people talk about, but there is some people like myself who used to love it, March Madness and college basketball used to be a great video game back in the day. I used to love playing college hoops on the Xbox 360 until all of our college sports went away. So maybe one day we'll get college basketball again. I don't think so, but I hope we'll put it out there that maybe we'll get more college sports back on the video games. But of course, we have a very special guest filling in for a last second, Gary Whitta, right now. It's our good friend. You've seen him before. He's been on the show, and you've seen all of us appear on his content over there. It's Miles Dompier from Windows Gaming Central, back again to kick it with us. And Miles, I got a show dedicated to you, okay? I got some good topics all about you, but first off, how are you, Miles?
I am excellent. I'm excited to be here. I don't have the same sex appeal as Gary Whitta, but I appreciate you reaching out. I appreciate you extending the offer because I get to hang out with Snowbike Mike, Parris Lilly, Barrett, some of my favorite people in gaming. So I'm excited to dive into it today.
Thanks, Miles.
Well, Miles, I do have to say, you and I do have a problem, though.
Yeah?
We're going to jump
into
this.
We're doing this now?
Yeah,
We're doing this?
Yeah, okay. It's not what you think.
Oh.
You had Greg Miller on your show.
Yes.
Oh, I did.
That was a portrayal of the Xbox community, having that guy on there.
PlayStation fanboy on the Xbox show. Ooh.
No, it was a good episode. Being serious for a second, though, it's always great to see Greg, kind of expand out of the PlayStation Nation and come to an Xbox show and talk gaming and life and all that. It was a real great episode.
Yeah, excited to get him in the hot seat, and I sold him on Evil Dead the game.
Yeah.
So
yes,
big episode overall.
Yeah, of course. And of course, for all the best friends out there, when we had Miles on last time, we talked about Xbox Chatter Days, which they should tune into over on youtube.com/Windows Gaming Central. But we also added a new little podcast to the lineup, Miles. You and Jez, one of my favorite out there. You guys are doing a new show. What is that and where can they catch it?
Yeah, so Jez Corden and I, my partner in crime over at Windows Central, we rolled out a show called Checkpoint, and it's basically like a tighter version of a news show. So the goal is 15 to 20 minutes. Usually it's longer than that. But Jez Corden and I sit down and kind of break down some of the highlights. So this week, obviously, we went through the initiative and some of our insights into that whole situation. But the goal there is to give you a nice bite-sized Xbox-focused news show that you can watch during lunch.
I love that. And I've been enjoying watching it each and every Wednesday. So great job, Miles and Jez. Great content coming out. And of course, big shout out to the Windows Central gaming team. I love reading all the articles and checking in on all the content. So check out Miles and the team over there with that. But of course, Miles, this is the KindaFunny Xcast, and we got to talk Xbox news with you. We're going to talk the initiative and Perfect Dark, of course. We're going to talk about a brand new game that got announced this week that is now one of my most anticipated for 2022. That's a fun horror game, just like you love. And of course, we got to talk Tunic and Shredders. So let's jump into it because this is the KindaFunny Xcast. We post each and every Saturday at 6 a.m. West Coast, Best Coast time on youtube.com/KindaFunnyGames, roosterteeth.com, and of course on podcast services around the globe. Don't forget that we are now Epic Games partners, which means you can support the team in a brand new way. If you're buying V-Bucks in Fortnite, or if you're buying games off the Epic Games Store, please use our Epic creator code at checkout, KindaFunny. It's no additional cost to you, and it's a brand new way to help support the team. And talking about support, we want to give a big thank you to our Patreon producers for the month of March. Thank you to Gordon McGuire, Fargo Brady, Pranksky, Dan Golden Spider B, Tyler Ross, Delaney Twinning, First Responder ND, Julian the Gluten-Free Gamer, James Hastings, Casey Andrews. Thank you all so much for your support. And thank you to everybody that supports us on Patreon that's currently watching the show live over on YouTube. Shout out to Solitary Jess, Raleigh, and Cooper. Everybody in the live chat, thank you for watching the show before it goes live for free on all those podcast services and on YouTube. And a big thank you to our sponsors for the week, MeUndies and DoorDash. But myself and the team will tell you all about that in just a little bit. Guys, let's jump into some games, okay? We got to talk about the news in just a little bit, but I want to start off with some games because we got a surprise one. Tunic coming to Game Pass day and date, surprising everyone over there. And I know you guys, especially Baird on the ones and twos, have been playing Tunic. I'm actually going to start off with you, Miles, because you had a great Twitter quote that Parris really liked. So why don't you start off? Tell me about Tunic.
So Tunic, this is a game I've had my eyes on for, 5 years now? It was revealed on an Xbox stage 5 years ago. This captivating, cute little fox creature, isometric, obviously inspired by Zelda. Hence the name, hence the fact that the fox is wearing this tunic. As someone whose very first video game, and the reason that I love video games is because I played The Legend of Zelda: Link to the Past for the very first time. Mm-hmm. Seeing that, I was immediately sold on the idea of it. And ever since I've been waiting to play it. Every E3, I'm like, is this the year? Is this the year we get the release date? And for a while, no, that wasn't the case. But now, it's finally out. They did a shadow drop straight into Xbox Game Pass, so anyone subscribed to Game Pass can play it, and I got to sink my teeth into it. And as you guys were talking about, I spent a few hours with it and kind of started articulating my thoughts on what this is. And I've come to the realization that this is basically what happens when a developer realizes that A Link to the Past and Dark Souls are the two most important blueprints for action games, and then also recognizes that Donkey Kong Country has the best soundtrack of all time. And it takes all of those elements and combines it into a modern game that's beautiful, that feels great, has this unique sense of exploration, and it just feels so good to play it. Obviously, I'm only a couple hours in, so I'm not that deep, but it's been probably the only game that's been able to pull me away from Elden Ring. So that says a lot about it.
That's a big deal, Miles. I know that you've been loving Elden Ring, and I got a special one for Elden Ring in just a little bit, but it's awesome to hear that you've been jumping in. Before I get to Baird, who has now rolled credits on it, Parris, what are your impressions early on with this game?
Yeah, I think Miles was spot on with his assessment of Tunic, and I'm only a few hours in myself, but it was a great to see that it came to Game Pass, because obviously no one knew that until the ID at Xbox showcased, announced it. So that was a great surprise. So obviously anyone watching or listening this show, if you've not picked it up yet and you're a subscriber to Game Pass, absolutely go check it out, because this is phenomenal. It's a phenomenal game. This hasn't been on my radar as long as Miles. Ironically enough, I really didn't know much about Tunic until the demo that came out last year, and instantly fell in love with it at that time. And then obviously, my affection for a game like Death's Door, and a lot of people have been asking me on Twitter the past couple of days my thoughts on that, and I was trying to hold it till now. And I will simply say similar but not similar in the sense that this, to me, Tunic is definitely more Zelda than like a Souls type game, right? And it's actually, the difficulty has surprised me in this. It's actually more difficult than I thought, which is good. It's a good difficulty, right? Like I don't feel frustrated or anything like that, but having a blast with it. Kind of like Miles said, the music in it is phenomenal, and I'm slowly starting to realize that 90s Zelda games, nailed it. Just copy that and you're good for the rest of the way, because ironically enough, two of my favorite games the past couple of years have been games inspired by Legend of Zelda, like Death's Door, obviously, and Tunic, Link to the Past. I definitely see a lot of Link's Awakening in this as well, but I mean, this is phenomenal. It's a great game. Highly recommend anyone pick it up. And with it being on Game Pass, it's on PC, because I'm playing it right now is through Game Pass PC, and it's also you can play it on the cloud. too. So it's just like, dude, just wherever you want to go play it, it's great. So highly recommended. It's phenomenal.
Oh man, you guys are doing a great job hyping it up. And now we got to go to our producer on the ones and twos, Barrett Courtney, because he has dove into this and run credits on it. So Barrett, what do you think? How was your experience?
Yeah, I really enjoyed it. I was riding high on it throughout. You know, I think the comparisons to the obvious inspirations are apt. It's funny though, because even like I think it was a couple of years, someone had a story a couple of years ago on the show floor where this was being shown, and they're very adamant of like, no, it's not like Legend of Zelda. And I actually listened to a developer interview on Waypoint Radio with the lead developer, who like was building this game on his own, and then brought in other people to help with like sound stuff and some art assets and stuff like that, I believe. It seems more inspired by the sense of discovery that we've had in like the original Legend of Zelda game, but even more so the example that he brought up was Super Mario Brothers 1, and playing that game over and over again, and then getting to 1-2 where you're underground and thinking to yourself, wait, I can take that elevator to get around the end of the level. Where does that take me? And then like him talking about like discovering the warp zones and stuff like that. And you like that, just that little anecdote, I think like speaks levels to what the design philosophy around this game is. It is all about secrets and discovering that, and kind of the, we always talk about like the schoolyard conversations about like, oh, how'd you find this? And like, what'd you do over here? You're having that conversation with the game, which is a really cool way that they kind of designed around that, of like, you're collecting these pieces of like an old school Super Nintendo guidebook that have been like ripped up, and you're like kind of collecting it throughout the game, and in those ways it's telling you of like, oh, here's more things about the world. Here are tips of like the stats that you should have, fighting the first boss. Oh, here's how you didn't know how to run. Here's how to run, and things like that are really, really cool. Yeah, and the comparison to Death's Door, because yeah, we've known about. I think this game was revealed. I was definitely at IGN when this was revealed, so it must have been like 2017, I think. So it's been a minute. But then, Death's Door came out of nowhere last year, got announced, or maybe 2 years ago, and then, came out last year, and kind of ate Tunic's lunch, because it was like a very quick cycle of like, hey, this game out of nowhere looks dope as hell. Oh, and it's out in like 6 months. You're like, oh, sweet. And, had a lot of, talking points when it came to comparing it to Tunic, even though Tunic hadn't even been released yet. I think when it comes to comparing these two games, I think I still like Death's Door more. I think they do different things better than the other, but I think the things that Death's Door does really well with combat, with the entire like world and how they use that world to tell like the story that they're telling, I really enjoyed like the highs of that. I think hit me much more than the highs of Tunic personally, but still I can't discredit of like what Tunic does in just like kind of game design and philosophy. Yeah, like Death's Door, I think the combat is a little tighter, something a little more my speed. There are definitely points in the last couple of boss fights in this game were just like, Mike, let me tell you, you're playing Elden Ring. We're all playing Elden Ring. I rolled credits on Elden Ring. A lot of conversation. Like the second half of boss fights in Elden Ring, kind of a little BS, right? And I was feeling that tenfold of the last 2 boss fights in this game. And it really did feel like banging my head against the wall here of like not really having like good reads on like what bosses are doing and stuff like that, and I really was aggravated by the final boss, and I really cooled on the game because of little things like that. But at the same time, when I was rolling credits and like the stuff that happens right after the final boss fight, I was like, holy shit, like, oh my, they're going in this direction, and this is like the way that they want to tell like kind of the base ending, because like slight spoilers, there's like a true ending that you can unlock and stuff like that, and there's a lot of interesting things here, and I really enjoy it. I think it'll definitely be in Game of the Year conversations, especially on the indie side. Like this is definitely an indie that everybody who has Game Pass like has no excuse to not pick up, right? It'll be interesting to see where it lands for me personally. It's early in the year, so like right now it's really high, but see it like maybe climbing down the top 10 list if there's more things up my alley that are coming out this year. But we're in March, and we've I don't think there's been a week in the last 2.5 months where we didn't have a dope game come out that people can get into. And so yeah, I dug my journey. I'm still debating on whether or not I want to try to get the true ending for this game. We'll see. But yeah, a lot of great highs, some like questionable things when it comes to combat, but yeah, really enjoyed it. And if you want full thoughts on the kind of funny side, we've got a full review on Gamescast this week as well. Andy Cortez beat it and reviewed it, and I think it might still be playing it to also get some of the extra stuff in there. And Janet Garcia also came on, reviewed it as well, so definitely check that out.
You guys, thank you so much for giving me your impressions. It got me excited. And I think the coolest part was, of course, the ID at Xbox Showcase showing off Tunic with the surprise announcement of it coming to Game Pass. So really cool stuff. Glad to hear you all three are enjoying it. And I hope everybody out there watching and listening gets a chance to jump in and enjoy it as well. And one final thing, of course, I'm going to give my mini review because I've played a game that finally got me away from Elden Ring, which has been a very steep task out there to get me away from that game. But I am really happy because I finally get to talk about Shredders, which is now available over on Game Pass as well. As many of you know from the nickname, this is a game that was dedicated to me. That's all about me and everything that I love. So we got to talk about it, of course. Let's start off with thank you to my good friends over at Xbox and Phone Punch who provided me a code for early access. So I've been able to play this for about a week and a half almost as of recording this. So I've gotten a lot of times on the slopes, and I am really happy to share my thoughts on this. If you want to hear more thoughts, because I'm going to keep this pretty short and simple so we can jump into the show, you can go check out over on youtube.com/kindafunnyplays. I actually brought on the development team over from Phone Punch to shred the gnar with me, and they shared all the secrets, all the fun development stuff that they did to make an epic snowboarding game.
Not just one or two team members. I'm pretty sure the entire team was in that room. And it was a fun time. It was a really fun time.
The whole team was drinking beers, having fun, sharing some cool stories with me. So, in my opinion, Shredders. Oh, you know what? Before that, actually, Kind of Funny Xcast crew. We haven't really done this much. We haven't reviewed games over here. Usually that's a Gamescast thing. But of course, over on the Xcast, we get to do it too. And so I should introduce you to our new Kind of Funny 5-point scale, just in case you don't know. So going up from 1 to 5, at 1 is terrible, 2 is bad, 3 is okay, 4 is great, 5 is amazing. So you'll see this scale used on a lot of our reviews moving forward here at Kind of Funny throughout the new year. So we better do it right, of course. So for me, Snowbike Mike, in my review, I give Shredders a 4 out of 5. It is a great game. It is an awesome snowboarding game, and it is a Shredders virtual paradise. It is everything that I wanted out of a snowboarding game and more. And it was really, really special to sit down with the dev team and talk about what they created, all of the cool features they added into this. It's everything that I've wanted. I've always looked for that kind of hardcore sim mixed with a little bit of arcadey nature for snowboarding, just like you get out of Skate. I've never been a big Tony Hawk fan or a Riders Republic fan. And so I've always looked for more of that true sim. And this is what that team has created over at Phone Punch. Shredders has everything you could ask for, from diverse terrain that takes you from the backcountry to the gnarliest of snowboard parks and then beyond, right? They really talked about watching snowboard flicks before the season and being inspired by what they saw from the Red Bull team and Warren Miller and beyond, of like, oh, they're doing these cool events like Red Bull All Natural, where all of a sudden you're in this mixed backcountry with some all natural features, like park features that you can go hit. And it really felt great going around and enjoying this kind of campy, fun, dumb story that explains to you the basics of snowboarding and how you can control the game itself. But it takes you all around different parts of the mountain and really shows you the breadth of what they've created here. And something that I love coming from the skiing and snowboarding culture is the use of real gear and real pros being introduced, right? So we saw a Tahoe legend, a friend of mine, Jamie Anderson, on the screen, which was really, really cool, right? The gimbal god is there showing you what he can do, and so many other pros. And the team did a great job of actually, putting in real life gear that I've worn, that other riders get to wear and enjoy into the game. So it feels like I am that snowboarder. I get to be a part of it in this fun little tongue-in-cheek story that takes you with Scotty and the Shred-A-Geddon crew all the way up to the big leagues where you get invited to the Invitational to hit the biggest park. And it's really special to feel like, hey, here's that extreme sport that I love, and they've done a great job with it. The controls at first, I think for people being onboarded, will probably say, hey, it's a little wonky. It doesn't feel as good as I want it to, but it will really click on day 2 for you. I think you give it a go, you try to get back into it, spinning, flips, grabs, everything, and even just putting together some nice S-turns, full stops, riding in the powder compared to the corduroy is really, really special. I know I'm throwing a lot of snowboarding terminology and skiing out at everybody, but that's how enthusiastic I am with this game. And to see the passion that this small indie team put into something like this, I'm really, really pleased. And I want to give one final shout out to the team because we got to talk to them about the soundtrack, right? And that was a big one, of course, when you go up on the slopes or you're enjoying any sort of sports, then something that you love to have good tunes with it. And it was really cool to be like, hey, like, what was the idea? Why didn't you go with like big time licensed music? What did you go with? And the guy was like, hey, a big part for me was, giving somebody a chance to shine, somebody that's coming up in the world and giving them an opportunity. And they worked with this small music creator out in Europe and gave him the opportunity to make the soundtrack from the bottom up for 2 full years, where he would play builds with the development team and create a really fun lo-fi and upbeat tempo, full-on soundtrack. So they've created their own album for this game. It's actually dropped on Spotify, and it was really cool to hear that, because that's something I love, sitting here on the Kind of Funny Xcast and listening to Gary and Parris talking about indie devs and the opportunity to shine and giving them the spotlight. And I thought that was really, really cool for what they did with this musician. So please go check out Shredders. It's on Game Pass. You got 2 great options with Tunic and Shredders to go have some fun with. But here on the Kind of Funny Xcast, we're going to give it a 4 out of 5. It is a great time and very, very enjoyable with some awesome features that you don't want to miss out on. But if you want to hear more about that, go check out our Kind of Funny Plays. We'll give you the full in-depth, because we got a lot of news to talk about. Let's jump into it. So we're going to go from smiles and fun to maybe some question marks, guys. And I got to get your thoughts here, because on Kind of Funny Games Daily on Tuesday, the news broke, and we got to have a conversation because we need to know what's going on over at the Initiative and your thoughts. And of course, the final question is, will Perfect Dark be good with everything that's happening? So for everybody that doesn't know what happened over this year, we had a great breakdown and a great article from VGC by Andy Robinson, who talked about some mass departures. Almost half of the Initiative has left over the past 12 months. So according to a LinkedIn profile analysis, 34 employees have left the Initiative. And we're talking about some senior level employees. Of course, game director Dan Newberger, design director Drew Murray, lead level designer Chris O'Neill, principal world builder Jolien Myers, 2 senior system designers, and a group of 3 former God of War designers, and more have all left the team over at the Initiative over the past 12 months. They have hired some of those positions back, but it does lead to the big question that we'll start off with. Parris, Lily, what's up with the Initiative? From the outside looking in, is this something that Xbox fans should be worried about? Should they be concerned that we're not holding on to this senior talent? Or is this the way of kind of game development in the studio and the world that we live in right now?
I personally think it gives you pause when you see an article like that come out, because it did for me. But I think if you really dig into the reasons why this happened, and actually Miles and Jez, you both had a great conversation about this on your show, talking about this. But I think when you really deep dive into what is happening with the Initiative in Perfect Dark, and this actually goes back to a conversation myself, you, Mike, and Gary had here on Xcast, and then I know you guys are even talking about it on Games Daily. I feel like I'm just watching everyone talk about the stuff I want to talk about. But this is why Crystal Dynamics came in, because it's pretty clear there was a change in philosophy on how to make this game. And I think the original vision of what the Initiative studio was supposed to be didn't jive with obviously some of the people that initially came on. And when you're in a market right now where game jobs are very hot and there's been a lot of movement, if you're not happy where you are, you're going to leave. It's just how it works, right? So I think that's what we're seeing here, where we saw some people come in, they thought they were going to be doing one thing, or they had one vision of how they were going to do it. That's not the vision now to be able to make this game, so they left. I do think it's as simple as that. So as an Xbox owner, as an Xbox fan, as someone who is anticipating Perfect Dark, should I be concerned? Not yet. I don't think so. I think we're so far away from when this game is actually going to come out. I'm not going to judge it by some people leaving the studio. When I actually see gameplay, when I actually see what Perfect Dark is going to be, that's when I'll start making some assumptions, and I'll actually judge it accordingly. I don't think that's the time right now. And I'm not saying that article was sensationalism or he shouldn't have wrote it the way he did or anything like that, because I think Andy did exactly what he should have. He got the information, he reported on it, because it is news that they left. But I think when you listen to the head of the initiative talk about the current structure of the studio, when you think about you're bringing in this veteran group of people from Crystal Dynamics to actually make the game that now this is the vision of what we want to do, I'll judge that when it comes out versus going, oh my God, a bunch of people left, panic time, the world's going to end, the game's going to be terrible. Nobody, and when I say nobody outside of the initiative or probably senior leadership at Xbox knows what Perfect Dark is. So I'm not going to make an assumption on that right now until I see it for what it is. You know, visions, look, current job right now, visions are changing. I might not be happy with it, but that's just a reality of how things work. Everything's not going to stay the same. I think when I think about the initiative, I think the worst thing that ever could have happened to them, whether it was on purpose or not, was it being dubbed that quadruple A studio, because that set these crazy expectations that whatever comes out of them is going to be this mind-blowing thing that we've never seen before, and it's going to change the way game development happens forever and gaming and all that stuff. That's unfortunate for them, because they should be judged on the product that they make instead of having prejudge expectations of what they're going to make, right? And I think that's where we are right now with the initiative, where everyone has these crazy expectations for what Perfect Dark should be. So when you start seeing people shift around and move, all of a sudden there's the doom and gloom aspect of it. I'm not going to do it because I have no idea what that game's going to be until we actually get to see it, which, hey, could be this year, could be next year, could be 2024. Who knows? We'll see when it actually comes out. So I just think, yeah, it's news. I think when you deep dive into it a little further, you get some clarity on it. I'll wait before I judge.
Very well said right there, Parris. And I do want to kick it to Miles, who had a great conversation over on Checkpoint this week with Jazz. They really dove into this. And Miles, there's a couple of ways I want to come at you with this. Of course, I first want to hear your first impression, similar to Parris, of what you thought when you saw this report come out. But I also want to transition into studio culture. Miles, you have been really honored and blessed to be able to talk with a lot of different indie developers and big time developers around different studios. We've talked about culture inside of the workplace. A lot of the conversation in this article revolved around those employees who left, talking about, hey, we were pitched on a creative, really forward facing studio that was going to have a balanced, everybody from the down to the top was going to have a say in this, but it seemed more of a top down approach to that. Is culture a problem at the initiative, or is this just the growing pains of maybe this new studio that we talk about?
Yeah, I think Parris brings up some excellent points. Obviously, Jez and I talked about this on Checkpoint, and there was, from what we understand, a clash of philosophies. You had one group of people who, from what I gather, were sold on the original vision of the initiative, which was a nimble team that was designed to let people experiment. We want to give them a vessel and a way to experiment. They wanted to bring on a team, build a team that's full-time for the initiative. And then we have the other side, which is bringing on Crystal Dynamics and having a more kind of top-down structure. You have your lead, Daryl Gallagher. You have this core group of people working on the vision of the game. And then you have a partnership studio come in and execute on that vision. And I think the reason that so many people left is that was not what they were sold on. Right. And as Parris touched on, when you get somebody excited about something and they have this idea for what that's going to look like and what the future of this company and the studio is going to look like, and then you take that away, chances are they're not going to stick around. If they dedicated all this time and energy into something and that something doesn't end up happening, it's hard to see it through, no matter how excited some of these people were on the project, because I'm sure a lot of them really were. It seems like right now, to have a game come out in a reasonable timeline, this is the approach that they feel is the best. And Daryl Gallagher and the people on board right now feel that that is the best approach. And so that's reassuring. That's good to hear. It sounds like everyone's still on board with the project, is excited about the future of the project. Again, I'm always talking about Xbox Game Studios, and I'm a champion for the people who make games, because to me, more important than the ultimate product of the game are the people who make the games. And it is a bummer for me to hear that people were sold on this vision for the initiative, and it didn't end up happening. That this grand vision for Microsoft building this team and building this way to experiment in this space didn't happen for them. So it's a bummer to hear that many people leave. And when you hear of that many people leave, yeah, you can go doom and gloom, and you can say this game's doomed, the studio's doomed, or you can look at it and say this just doesn't align with what those people want. And it's tough. It's tough to hear. So I think Microsoft is doing an amazing job overall when it comes to fostering culture. And I think that's why they aren't in a hurry to rush out a Perfect Dark game just to have it because it was announced. That's why they're not in a rush to put out Everwild, even though it was revealed years ago, Fable, etc., because they are focused on making sure that this team, the initiative in particular, needs to be the mission statement for Xbox and Microsoft as to what the culture should be. No crunch, no toxic work environments, because realistically, they can't get away with that. They really can't. And there's going to be a lot of eyeballs on this, so they need to make sure they do it right. And doing it right, as they are probably learning some hard lessons, is complicated and going to take a lot of time. So I think it's a combination of growing pains, culture clash for certain individuals, and maybe potentially too ambitious of an original vision for the future of the initiative.
And if I could add one other thing into what you're saying, Miles, because I think you're spot on with all of that, because I even tweeted this out after I thought about it more when we got this news. It's a broken record at this point, but it's a fact. Pandemic has drastically affected game development. Now, apply that to a brand new studio that you're building from the ground up that now needs to make a game. And like you're saying, there's now been a change in vision and philosophy on how to make said game. Everyone's home working remotely. You don't have people that are used to collaborating, working together in person to where they've established those relationships and they understand each other and the culture and everything. It's hard to build a brand new culture when we're all sitting behind a microphone and behind a camera, right? It just is. That's the reality of it, because I deal with it in my day job all the time. So you have to take those things into account. So imagine me sitting at home and someone sitting behind a camera is telling me all the excitement and joy and everything that got me to come on board to this company has now shifted to this different vision. I'm not going to be happy about that. I don't have that legacy collaborative relationship with you enough that I potentially want to stick around for that. And so again, when you add all that stuff up, game development is hard as hell as it is anyways, right? Now you're doing it remotely. Now you've had a change in vision. Now you're still trying to build a studio at the same time. You put all that stuff together, man. It starts to make sense that you bring Crystal Dynamics in because they're established. They have the legacy relationship with each other. They already have a culture built. Like you said, you tell them this is the vision I have. Okay, let's now execute that vision and make the game that we want to do. That's how I see it, right? And I'm not making an excuse. Who knows what the ultimate truth is behind everything that's going on? We're all on the outside looking in, but trying to look at it logically, I do think that that's a huge factor in all of this as well. That you're trying to create all this stuff during a pandemic and working remote. You know, we say it all the time, but I think we can't forget to say it at the same time because it is a part of the equation too.
Thank you both for giving me your first impressions on that. Let's switch gears and talk about Perfect Dark now as a whole, right? This is one that Parris, you, me, and Garrett, we spoke about, right? There's people who love Perfect Dark, myself in that camp, right? There's people who don't even know about Perfect Dark. And then there's people who said, Perfect Dark? Are we sure that's the move, right? Because, as you said, whether it be a typo or not, it was touted as like super talented developers coming onto this brand new studio. We're making a massive AAA or quadruple A, however you want to hold on to that statement, right? Game that should be the next big Xbox franchise that we compare to Sony. And we always say, hey, we want this game. We want something big like that of that top tier quality. Is Perfect Dark now in a place after what this article has stated? maybe a soft reboot, as the article also says, or possibly some more time in the oven with Crystal Dynamics. Do we still believe that Perfect Dark will be that next big game and then into franchise? Or is this a game that we could possibly play, move on, and never talk about again, and the initiative could move forward with a whole new project and we never talk about Perfect Dark? What do you think about that, you two?
Let you go, Miles.
Yeah, that's an interesting question. People are passionate about Perfect Dark in one way or the other. Like you said, there are some extreme camps. The people who love Perfect Dark, grew up playing it on Nintendo 64, love the legacy of Rare, and then you have people looking at Perfect Dark and, like you said, saying, is this the right call? Is this the right mission statement for the future? And I think that is an interesting question. And we know Crystal Dynamics is talented. They are a talented team. They have delivered amazing games with the Tomb Raider franchise. Obviously, they've had some fumbles with stuff like Marvel's Avengers, but if you look at the big picture, I think that's more of a publisher kind of pressure issue than it is a technical issue with the team. And the thing that I like about the current Xbox Game Studios is that I don't imagine that Crystal Dynamics is going to be short of any sort of resources. So if you take a talented team, an established team that knows how to make great games, and you say, all right, we're going to give you the resources you need to do that, and we're going to give you the time you need to do that, I think that paints a really great picture for the potential of Perfect Dark and really the potential for any partner team working with the current Xbox. So for me, that's exciting because I would love to see an ambitious, fresh take on Perfect Dark. I've always liked Perfect Dark. I've never loved Perfect Dark. And if they could come out and deliver something that I love and it really pulls me in, that would be huge. And like you said, there are huge expectations. There's that infamous quadruple A job listing. The thing that's funny about that is I don't think anyone ever officially mentioned quadruple A on any level, but there was that one job listing where it was in there and people were like, oh, dude, what? And then you talk about all the people from Sony Santa Monica jumping on board and like, oh, no, they're going all in. And like you said, that puts a ton of pressure on that team to just drop a banger, as the kids call it. You got to come out of the gate, drop that banger that's going to crush Sony, put them out of business, which is, you know, a unhealthy place that some people want Xbox to be in. This idea that one company can't succeed unless another is destroyed. That's where some of this comes from, but I am very hopeful for the future of this new, like you said, soft reboot of Perfect Dark.
Parris, I guess all eyes are on the initiative right now this week. Of course, the news comes out. It's like the Eye of Sauron. We're all looking at you, right? And so now I guess the question for me, and I think everybody out there, is like, what's next for the initiative and Crystal Dynamics? Do you go dark, as Miles brought up, where we had the CGI announcement trailer, and now maybe we go years without saying anything? Do we make a statement besides what Daryl Gallagher has already said? Do we have to do any sort of crisis control? Do we just go as business as normal and maybe give something new this summer? Or do you think this is going to be years in the making and we might not see Perfect Dark back on the main stage for a couple years now?
I'm of two minds when it comes to that. And it all depends on where are they currently in game development and what state is the game currently. If we're close enough that, I don't know, let's say the game could come out holiday 2023. I'd show something this summer. I would. I would definitely show something. Kind of put minds at ease. Hey, we're fine. Here you go. Here's the game. If the game's further out, if we're looking at 2024 and beyond, I go dark. I just go dark. This is obviously hot right now, but this will quickly be forgotten in the news cycle and no one will think about this, and you show it when it's ready. I guess ultimately that's what it is. I would not show Perfect Dark until it's ready to be shown, until it's in a state of we're confident this is the path that we're going on with the game. This is what the gameplay loop is going to look like. We want people to see actual gameplay and not some CGI sizzle reel. I want to see the game in action. When it's in that state, then you show it. And then you can say, look, we're fine, we're good. But no, I wouldn't, beyond the statement they already made, I wouldn't say anything else about the game until we're actually ready to see it.
All right. Miles, my final question before we get out of this news topic is, what do you want out of Perfect Dark? Are you looking for the full single player and multiplayer full package? Do you want just single player? We look at Crystal Dynamics history, right? A lot of people love the single player Tomb Raider and what they brought to the game. People liked Marvel's Avengers single player side, not so much the multiplayer side, unless you're Greg Miller. but like, what do you want coming out of this partnership here?
I'm a multiplayer guy. Like that is the thing, that is the genre I play the most. And I understand people's criticisms of certain multiplayer titles and how it'll fundamentally shift the loop, shift the mechanics. But we're coming right off the back of Elden Ring. And I think Elden Ring, From Software in particular, have laid this foundation for how to do multiplayer in a way that is only additive. Elden Ring is a banger single player experience. You can go through, play that single player without any sort of distractions. You know, a finger butthole here and there might be distracting for some, but outside of that, you can play that game single player without it being negative in any way. And then you can take that same incredible experience and you can add co-op. So the multiplayer in that scenario is only additive. So if Perfect Dark can do that, if they can cater to the people who want a great single player narrative experience and then sprinkle in some multiplayer for your boy here, ooh, that's what I want. But that's me being selfish. If it's just a single player experience, cool, that's awesome. But I'm always going to push for multiplayer.
Okay. I really look forward to that, Miles, because yeah, I was big on the multiplayer. I think you think back to the N64 days. This was a game that competed with GoldenEye, right? This was the game that we all played, 007 GoldenEye. We migrated over to Perfect Dark because that was the next best thing with the 4-player couch co-op multiplayer that I know and love. And then even on the Xbox 360 version, I think you got the single player game that you wanted with the co-op aspect that Perfect Dark is known for. And then there was a multiplayer that some loved, some hated. I spent a lot of time with, and I really look at this project. And of course, like we talked about right here, it's like you see this news and I get a little shaken. I get a little worried of like, where's Perfect Dark right now? Can I expect a full package? Should I only hope for a stellar single player game, or does the current market want a multiplayer game? We have Halo Infinite, you have Gears, right? You have so many other multiplayer shooters in the Xbox library. Where does this fall, and would that really last? I am interested to see where we go, but might be some time before we find out. But you know what? We won't be gone for long because I have more news coming for you right after a word from our sponsors.
Shout out to MeUndies. We've all been there trying on clothes in a dressing room and everything makes you look like 3 kids hiding in a coat. Finding the perfect size is annoying. That's why MeUndies makes undies, bralettes, and loungewear to fit just right. Y'all know how long I've loved MeUndies. I am often wearing the shirt, the lounge pants, the undies, the socks like I'm doing right now. If I was a cartoon character, this would just be my outfit. It would just be all MeUndies. I love it because of the soft micromodal fabric and because it does fit really well. MeUndies knows that comfort starts with the perfect size and fit. That's why they wear test all sizes from extra small to 4XL for everything they make. They've got different cuts for different butts and everything from bold colors to fun adventurous prints, so the world can be a comfier place for every booty. MeUndies promises if you're not comfortable with any product for any reason, you can return your order for a full refund within 45 days. MeUndies has a great offer for y'all. For any first-time purchasers, you can get 15% off and free shipping right to your door. To get 50% off your first order, free shipping, and 100% satisfaction guarantee, go to MeUndies.com/kindafunny. That's MeUndies.com/kindafunny. Shout out to DoorDash. Sometimes pulling into your driveway after a trip to the grocery store only to realize you forgot one key ingredient for dinner kind of feels like the end of the world. But with DoorDash, you can get the groceries and household essentials you need or a backup meal from your favorite local restaurant delivered in under an hour. Desperately craving a late night snack or just want to stock up for the week with DoorDash? Get it all in one app. We've been using DoorDash forever. You hear us on the Kinda Funny podcast always talking about the different taquerias we're ordering from, the different burger places we're ordering from. We are super happy and we love to just get the food delivered right to us. For a limited time, you guys can get 25% off and 0 delivery fees on your first order of $15 or more when you download the DoorDash app and enter code KindaFunny. That's 25% off up to a $10 value and 0 delivery fees on your first order when you download the DoorDash app in the App Store and enter code KindaFunny. Don't forget, that's code KindaFunny for 25% off your first order with DoorDash. Subject to change, terms apply.
All right, guys, let's get back into it. We got some fun Starfield details. And you know what's cool about Starfield is it's epic, it's wild. We know absolutely nothing about it, but somehow Todd Howard can just sit around a table with his homies and get me geeked up over Starfield. So we have Roundtable video number 2 made for the Wanderers, and I'm excited because I get to talk with both of you about this. I know Miles is a big RPG guy. Parris, you break down Starfield so well, and everybody loves whenever you talk about it. So let's talk about this because I love it at least. Okay, I'm tuning out everybody else then, I guess. But let's talk about it because this was a really well done, another 5-minute conversation here at the coffee table with a couple of the Starfield teams and Todd Howard, and then breaking down what we should expect, getting excited about it. So here's a couple of the big highlights from the 5-minute video. And of course, if you have not watched it, please go check it out if you're interested in Starfield in any way, shape, or form. And I do want to give a big shout out really quick to the music that they undertone all of this conversation with. The theme, once again, is just so good, and I can't wait to hear all of the music when we jump into this game. But some big highlights, of course, were going back to older hardcore RPGs, what they used to use back in the day, like player backgrounds, traits, defining your character, and more. So we're going to see some of that. They're really leveling up the tech based on scanning real-world models to elevate your player and the NPCs around you. We also got to learn a little bit more about the factions, the United Colonies, the Freestar Collective, the Ryujian Industries. I mispronounced that, but you know what I'm talking about. The Pirates, which is the Crimson Fleet. We also got to learn a little bit more about what you can do with the Crimson Fleet. Of course, if you're a good guy throughout the game, but you still want to be a little bad, you can team up with the Pirates, or you can maybe rat on them and become a little undercover cop. But that was some fun stuff to learn about that.
What the correct term
Space narc.
Space narc. Thank you. That was the words I was looking for. Of course, we also touched on companions. There was something that they're going to lean into, and they want to talk about how companions feel about you and the world around you and how you interact with it. They also showed off their first companion, which was revealed, which is Vasco, the robot, which was very cool looking out there. They're elevating the persuasion mini game when talking to NPCs and how you persuade them in dialogue, which is cool. And of course, at the end, Todd Howard had this statement. He says, quote, "At the end of it, we want players to have told their own journey, but then look back at it, and we're asking the big questions. Why are we all here? Where is it leading? And what's next for humanity?" So a nice little sign off to that 5-minute conversation. Miles, you're my RPG guy. What were some of the standout moments from this conversation here? Are you even more excited now for Starfield?
Todd Howard knows how to sell a game, all right? You know, say what you will about the man, but he knows what he's doing. And I like these little bits and pieces. We know Bethesda, as much as people want the gameplay, they want to see this game in action. We kind of know how they operate. We can expect roughly 6 months before the game comes out to see the big showcase breaking down all the gameplay. But these little elements, you know, satiate the diehard fans who just want details. They want to know something about this game. And so I love these 5-minute breakdowns. The companions for me is huge to hear. I love the Outer Worlds. Mm-hmm. I loved the companions in the Outer Worlds are some of the best in any video game. I've never been so attached to companions in a game. I've never wanted to bring them along on all my side quests in the same way. And so I was a little, I guess if I'm being honest, worried that Bethesda wouldn't quite deliver what Obsidian did with the companions in the Outer Worlds. So to hear them really break down that that's going to be a focus is huge, because if you're exploring this vast, humongous universe, it can probably feel pretty lonely. I imagine a lot of this game is going to be you alone in a spaceship. So if you can give me a buddy, a little companion to have on the side, that's going to add a lot to the experience for me as a player. And to hear them going back to the hardcore RPG roots. What Bethesda has always done an amazing job of is creating a sense of wonder. When Skyrim dropped, when Fallout 3 dropped, even though these weren't, necessarily new universes per se, they took the formula of open world exploration to entirely new levels, and that you just wanted to explore every nook and cranny, and every time you did, you got something for it. And so Starfield is sounding like that fundamental idea just blown up and thrown in space, which is exciting because there are so many possibilities in space. With Skyrim, for example, you have a grounded planet. You can do some weird stuff. You can get weird with it, but I'm hoping that Starfield gets really weird with it. I want to see some stuff that I would not expect in a game, because again, coming off the back of Elden Ring, that's why I loved it so much, because every few hours they hit me with something I have never seen in a video game before. And that is such a rare treat. And I think, Bethesda, if anyone can do it, they are the team to do it.
Parris, you know, we've talked about it online on the podcast, and you've talked about it over on Twitter of like, where's Bethesda right now? What are they poised to do after Skyrim, after all the fallouts, right? The opportunity of a new franchise, a new series right here with this incredible studio. And we're looking at the years. We talked about it last year, last episode, what makes a great open world game, right? And does this sound to you during this 5-minute conversation, hey, we're going to stick to our roots, we're going to stick to our guns here? Or does it make it sound like to you, where you and I talked of maybe it is time to try something new, be something bold and different here?
It sounds to me, excuse me, listening to that conversation that they had, because Todd Howard even specifically mentioned that they want to bring back some older RPG mechanics into Starfield that we haven't seen in a long time. It's almost like taking the old to make it new again, right? In the sense that, excuse me, he's going to use some old RPG elements along with some new things to create a brand new experience that potentially, and again, because we know nothing until we see it, that potentially will give us an experience that we've not had before in these type of games. Like I've said, my hope is this is a sci-fi RPG experience that has that sense of discovery and exploration that we've always dreamed about having in gaming. And I think the technology and everything is getting to a point where maybe that's potentially what Starfield could be. And it seems like this has been an IP that they've been basically 20 years in the making to get to this point, to where they're getting some of the smartest people over there at Bethesda that have been working on this game for years to give us this experience. And I understand the people that I don't want to say the naysayers, but the people that are skeptical, the people that are looking at going, well, I've not seen gameplay yet. I can't trust the words that we're hearing coming out of their mouth until I see gameplay. I think that's valid. I really do. I honestly do. I feel like, and look, I'll take it back. I wish I had the yellow chair here. I obviously went on a lot of faith with Cyberpunk 2077 as an example, right? Because of the pedigree of what CD Projekt Red did with The Witcher 3 gave me faith and hope to what Cyberpunk 2077 could be. Now, look, that's its own story. I think they've got it into a good place now. But that point remains with Starfield, in that I'm taking the pedigree of Bethesda and Todd Howard, and I look at their history of games, and like I think about Fallout 3, the first time I came out of the vault, just having that wondrous moment. I think about Skyrim, first time I fought a dragon. Like there's all these wonderful Todd Howard game moments that I've had that I want to put my faith and hope into Starfield, giving me something similar, if not better, than I've had before. So when I hear them talking about this stuff, it gets me excited, because I truly want to believe that this is going to be this new experience that we've not had before in a sci-fi RPG. So it gets me excited for it. And again, understanding Todd Howard and how he handles game reveals, nobody should be shocked that we've not seen anything yet, because he doesn't do that anymore. He waits until, when we talked about Perfect Dark before, he doesn't show anything until it's ready. When it's ready, right before, a few months before launch, that's when we're going to see Starfield gameplay, and we're probably going to see so much of it, we're going to be sick and go, Todd, stop. I just want to play it, right? But that's the point. He doesn't want people to, and look, people are going to get their own hype, excitement levels and all that, regardless if he shows it or not. But he doesn't want to give false expectations of the game until he knows that's the game that he's going to deliver. That's how I look at this, right? So until then, we're going to get the roundtables. We're going to hear the vision. Yeah. You can get excited. You can be skeptical. Either way, probably by June-ish of this year, you're going to see Starfield. And like I kind of said this on social media, at that point, I think it's fair to judge it accordingly, because that's what Todd Howard wants you to do.
I like that, Parris. And I'm one of those people that I watch these roundtable discussions and my hype level goes through the roof, right? I'm excited. I want to see gameplay like everybody. And I actually want to circle back to a conversation we had last week, and I know really was kind of spurred by the Xbox community and this guy over here, Miles, and the Windows Gaming Central crew, about events and getting the messaging out there. When is the right time? What should Xbox do moving forward? And I kind of want to hone in on what we're seeing right now with Todd Howard and the Bethesda team, right? This is a small roundtable discussion that's put up on Twitter. It's about 5 to 7 minutes at most, right? This is an overblown state of play. This is a Nintendo Direct. This is just hey, here's some small social content we can put out as we lead into this. So my two questions for you, Miles, are: do you like the way that we're really talking about Starfield right now with Todd Howard and the team here on social? And then on the flip side, do you expect us to see a big in-depth gameplay blowout this summer?
Yeah, so Xbox has done a really good job with the focused kind of events. If you look at Sea of Thieves, if you look at Undead Labs and State of Decay 2, Starfield, if you are in tune into that community, they do a decent job giving you stuff to look forward to and giving you stuff to be excited about. So, a lot of people out in a more casual space have probably had no idea there was any sort of update on Starfield, because this is focused for the hardcore community who is passionate about getting some little bits and pieces of information. The blowout in June, that's going to be for everybody. That is going to be the thing where they drop you 15, 20 minutes of gameplay and say, these are all the systems, these are all the RPG things, here's all the planets, here's how long the game is. And they're just going to unload the clip, as they say, with everything you can expect from Starfield. And I agree with Parris. I think that'll be the time we can say, is this game for me? Because I've seen a lot of people hype it through the moon, saying this is going to be the second coming of video games as a whole. And then I've seen a lot of people say, I don't care about this. I haven't seen any gameplay. Why should I care about this at all? And I think it's healthy to, either be in the middle ground, or if you want, I'm a sucker for hype. I'll buy into some hype, but you got to realize that at the end of this hype, there could be something that's way below that. And I think the way they're doing it now has set decent expectations, allowed the fans who want it to get excited about it. But come summer, I am expecting some big blowout for Starfield, and I really expect that to be a huge chunk of their E3-ish thing, because E3, as we know it, is probably dead and gone. But E3-ish, I'm expecting something from Starfield.
Parris, do you like this kind of hardcore for the socials, for the hardcore players out there? Do you like how they're doing this kind of conversation, showing off some content?
No, I'm fine with it, and I'll bring this up too, because I think this correlates into it. Like I brought up Cyberpunk 2077 a second ago. Think about it. They did that demo. Was that 2018? The game obviously came out in 2020. And there was some disappointment around that. Would you rather them do a demo a couple years ahead of time, show you gameplay that potentially could change during that 2 years, and then by the time you get the final product, it's a disappointment to you? I think instead of showing it, doing just like we're saying, these social roundtables, describing the vision and everything that they have, and then like we're saying, when it's ready, actually showing the game makes sense. Because like Miles said, when they have the big blowout, that's for everybody. That's for hardcore, casual, whatever. These little bite-sized bits or whatever you want to say we're getting right now, that's for us. That's for the hardcore people that are completely tuned in. They know this game is coming. We know the date, 11/11/2022. You're either excited about it or you're skeptical about it. But the time isn't now to judge it, because none of us know. Again, look, we're not Phil Spencer. We're not Pete Hines. We don't know. Okay. We're not going to know until they're ready for us to know. And I think that's the most important thing that people need to understand. Because like I said, I watched socials, this week after that happened. And I don't want to call it complaining, but it was just the amount of people that were like, I'm tired of seeing this. I want to see gameplay. Again, if you're the hardcore person that knows what Starfield is, if you know who Todd Howard is, if you know what Bethesda is, they're not going to show it to you now. You should know that going in, that the E3 June-ish showcase, whatever they're calling it, is when you're going to actually see this game. And that's when you're going to get all the information. And like I said before, that's when you judge it, because that's when they want you to judge it, because they're not going to give you anything until then.
I have two final things before we leave this conversation about Starfield and Bethesda, both from viewer questions out here. So the first one coming in from our live chat right now, watching over on Patreon and supporting us, is Miles and Parris. I see the conversation of, I hope they do this. I hope they improve upon this. I'd like to know from both of you, what's the one thing that you could have improved upon? I don't need to know where your hopes and dreams are gigantically for the game, but like, what's the one system you'd like to see them improve upon for Starfield after knowing all these games and all the years we've played? Miles, I'll kick it to you first. You're my RPG guy. What's that one system you want them to really improve upon?
As much as I love Bethesda RPGs for the sense of wonder, the scale, the in-depth freedom that you have as a player, combat, it has not been a strong suit for them. It's never been bad. I've never been vocally against Bethesda's combat, but going from Oblivion to Fallout 4, we haven't seen a huge improvement to combat. We haven't seen a lot of tweaks to the fundamental system. And for me, who's experiencing open world games that have, quite frankly, much better combat with a similar sense of freedom and exploration, I'm really hoping that's something that they took back to the drawing board and will deliver something that really stands out as a great combat experience. Cyberpunk 2077, even though there were a lot of issues with it, I did think it offered some decent combat in that formula. So for me, that's my one hope, is that combat comes out swinging and does something a lot different than what they've done in the past.
Parris, for you?
Kind of stole my thunder a little bit, but take it a different direction. I want my choices to matter more.
Ooh,
in the sense that I want particular allegiance that I make, or character I decide to save or I kill or whatever, to have a drastic effect on the rest of the game and just the way I'm perceived, or certain, and again, we keep talking about Cyberpunk a lot, but that was kind of the vision of that your specific choices are going to matter, and literally certain sections of the game you won't even get to experience due to a choice, or things like that, different endings, all that. I would love to see that more realized in Starfield. And again, with this being this big, vast sci-fi exploration game, we assume, where we're going to go all these different locations and things like that. What if it's like there's like entire planets that we don't get to see due to a choice, or because of a certain allegiance, I land on a planet and I'm considered an enemy immediately, or I'm a hero or whatever, and there might be an objective or a weapon or quest item that I simply cannot obtain because of a choice I made, or I have to make a certain choice to get a certain thing, but that screws me up on something else. I want to see this tangled web of choices that, like I said, truly matter, both good and bad.
With the choices, and even talking about the companions earlier, one thing that I hope to see, Mikey, is a fan of Fallout 4, because that was like the one that finally got me into the franchise. And I know this is like a lot because there's so many systems when it comes to choice making and who you're bringing out on missions and stuff like that. I remember my one big gripe with the story with Fallout, because I know it wasn't everybody's thing. I personally vibed with it, but early on you get your boy Valentine, the robot detective man, and he was my best friend, and I took him out on every single adventure, and it was the best buddy detective time I could possibly imagine in a post-apocalyptic world. And one of my frustrations with the end of the game is there are a lot of complicated kind of points that are brought up near the end of that game. There's some heavy decisions that you have to kind of make. And I kept going to Valentine because I really treasured this imaginary robot's opinion of me. Hey, what do you think? If I make this decision, how are you going to feel? And I felt like there's a constant oh yeah, cool, man, you got to do what you got to do, and I'm going to be with you the entire way. And then I make a certain choice, and he hates it. He totally does a 180 and hates me. He's like, you couldn't have told me that you would have been a little pissed if I made this decision when I asked you 3 hours ago, dude. I just hope there's a little more thought into I'm cool with if he wants to hate me, but give a little bit more of make it not feel as out of nowhere. And I hope there's a little more thought put into things like that, so I don't walk away from the game with my favorite robot boy hating me. So that's one thing that I've been thinking about a lot lately, because I always think about that interaction.
I like that, and I feel all of that from each and every one of you, and I think a lot of the audience listening and watching will probably agree with all three of you in different aspects of what they want. For me, I want a little more mystery, right? I think Bethesda and them have done a great job with their mission structure and how grand they can be, to even how small and concise they can be with being wowed by them. But coming off of the Dark Souls high that we're all enjoying with Elden Ring, I love the mystery of, oh, did you talk to that guy? You didn't know what led to this. You didn't know what goes there. And I would love to have that kind of sense of mystery and have that wow factor as we go explore this awesome world. But our final question coming in from the KindaFunny best friends, from Miles and Parris here. In the big Bethesda-style RPGs, there are usually factions you can join that can change your moral approach to the story. For the panel at large, Are you the types to replay an RPG to see all the paths, or are you a one and done type of RPG gamer? And of course, I'll circle back really quick to the roundtable talk that Todd and the team had on this last one. They really hyped up the industry megacorpo kind of side of branch thing, saying that that was one of the most fun ways to start the game. So, Miles, are you going to play all of them? Are you one and done? Does a statement like that influence you to maybe do something different than you normally wouldn't?
It's tough because we only have so much time in the day, Mike. Like, I can only play so many open world RPGs. So it really is going to come down to the execution. If they do stuff like Parris is talking about and have these huge sections of the game you can't even access because you went this route, you did this thing, I want to be blocked off from that. And that would encourage me to take a different approach. Normally, you know, I usually take the nice guy approach and be boring and be polite to all the NPCs in the game. And that's kind of the path that I typically take, just in case I don't feel inclined to revisit it. But yeah, like you touched on with Elden Ring, that's probably the first open world game in a long time where I've gone through, done everything I possibly can, and then immediately started another playthrough and said, let's go. Let's do it all again. So if Starfield can do that, that is a rare thing for me as a player of open world RPGs.
Parris, you're a man with only so much time. And sometimes you give some time where you shouldn't, like your precious sleep. But is this something where you're like, Mike, I'm going to re-roll this and see all of the different factions?
But yeah, that kind of just going right off of what Miles said and what I said before. That's why I would love to see these complex choices, because if I'm playing it a certain way stops me from seeing parts of the game, then I'm going to want to play it a different way so I can see those other parts of the game. You know what I mean? So it adds to the replay value of it. So yeah, absolutely. I would hope that they do that, because it's just going to encourage me to want to go back to the game. And it's going to create that water cooler talk, you know, where we're going to be talking about having these different experiences in the game. Well, I did this and I got to see that. What? Oh man, I need to go play it because I want to go do that too, kind of thing. So yeah, absolutely.
Awesome, guys. Well, we got 2 more stories to get through to end this show, so let's have some fun with them. And this first story, I think I'm going to grind Parris's gears a little bit because he wants it so bad. It's the Steam Deck, because a lot of people are really excited online. We just had a big Reddit post right now, the Microsoft Edge beta, the browser for Xbox cloud gaming on the Steam Deck. So it reads like this. Hey, gaming friends, I got some great news for Xbox gamers and Steam Deck owners. We worked closely with Valve and the Xbox Cloud Gaming team to bring support for Xbox Cloud Gaming Beta with Xbox Game Pass Ultimate through Microsoft Edge Beta for the Steam Deck. Yes, seriously. Now, we got some caveats to this, right? This is something we talked about of like Gabe and the team over at Valve were like, hey, ball's in your court, figure it out. We'd love to have it on here. We're kind of getting closer to that, but there's some workarounds. Miles, the cool part about having you on the show is you did a full-on review for Windows Gaming Central about the Steam Deck. You've been hands-on. You love Xbox. So talk to me. Is this what me and Parris want, where it's as simple as click and play? Or is this going to take me and have me pull my hair out to try to install this and do this correct?
Yeah, so I've had the Steam Deck for a little while. I've got to go hands-on with it. I was part of the pre-release experience, which, as people talked about in the review, is a little rough. There was like an update for this thing every single day. And it was some days the UI didn't work at all, and it was getting like a week out. And I was like, man, is this thing going to be, what's the state of this at launch? And then like 3 days before launch, it was like, bam, everything works fine. And I was like, wow, that was wild to see and experience. But the beauty of the Steam Deck is the simplicity. A lot of people look at the Steam Deck and say, the reason I'm not hardcore into PC gaming is because some of the hoops I have to jump through. And this device is designed to be something you can pick up, you can install games, and that's it. So you could pre-release, I could boot up the desktop mode, and I could connect a USB keyboard, and I could connect a USB mouse, and I could go to a web browser, and I could connect a controller through Bluetooth, and I could play Xbox Game Pass through a browser pre-release, but it was not an ideal experience. To me, that wasn't why I am excited about the Steam Deck. It was the complete opposite. I was like, I could just go on my computer and it would not only be easier, but it would be faster to do this. And so towards the tail end of this, leading into the full release, they started doing external apps. So Chrome, Now Edge and Chrome, for whatever reason, they're having issues with the joypad on the Steam Deck working. And I think that's why they're leaning into this partnership with Edge to make sure that the integrated Steam Deck gamepad works on Edge. So to have that and be able to just turn on the device, scroll over to Edge, go to Xbox.com and play games through that, that's the dream. That convenience is the most important thing. People, yeah, you can install Windows on there, but come on. Like, I know there is an audience of people who want to do that, but that's not what this device is about. It's about the convenience. And if you start eliminating the convenience, I'm just gonna be like, I'm good. No, I like the Steam Deck because it's simple. Anyone can use it. I can get into a game within seconds. That is the beauty of it. And so to hear Edge being integrated into the Steam OS natively without installing Windows, without jumping through all these hoops, without connecting an external controller, let's go, baby. Now here's what I want Steam and Xbox to really partner on, is I want them to integrate Xbox Game Pass support natively through Steam. So, and if you have Xbox Game Pass, any game that is in Xbox Game Pass that's also on Steam, you can download it natively through the Steam Deck. That's it. That is the play right there, and I will have zero complaints about the Xbox experience on Steam Deck.
Parris, does that get you a little green with envy? Are you excited about hearing at least the steps we're taking to get closer to that future?
Okay, let's have a conversation about this. So now that Edge is on Steam Deck and you can cloud game Xbox games, I think it's time to have one of the best Xbox shows out there. We should have a Steam Deck so we can talk about this and show it off to our audience instead of having Miles come on here and make me sad. Because that's what's happening right now. I'm sad. I wish I had one. I want one so bad. I keep saying it. I just want one. Someone at Valve watching
maybe
this.
Gabe will walk up to your door and hand
please.
deliver to.
I'll fly up to Seattle if you'll give me one. Just give me one.
Fly up.
I'll pay. I don't care. No, but seriously, all joking aside. No, I mean, everything that Miles is talking about, that's why I'm so excited about the Steam Deck is the possibilities of it. Like you said, I putting Windows on it isn't going to be ideal, but you can if you want to, right? The fact that they're putting the Edge browser in there natively on Steam OS and you can access with Xbox Game Pass, you can cloud stream, play those games is great. It's a choice. It's an option that you can do. I'm with Miles. The dream would be, and Gabe obviously is open to it. We know all the business people in the background got to figure out all the numbers if it's feasible, because I'm sure, there's going to be a little bit of transaction that needs to happen. But it would be the dream to have Game Pass natively integrated into Steam with the Steam Deck. And I can just download those games and I can play them locally there. That's the ultimate dream about this, taking those games on the go with you, playing them wherever you want, right? So do I think we potentially can get there in the future? Yeah, I do. I really do. I think it makes sense. If you think about what Xbox's philosophy has been since about 2016 with Xbox Play Anywhere, now we have cloud gaming. They don't care what device you play your games on. We know we're going to get the smart TV stuff, all that, the dongle, all that stuff is coming. It would just make sense if it works out for them to partner with Valve and to be able to have Game Pass on the Steam Deck. And even without the Steam Deck, Xbox games are on Steam. We already know there's Xbox games you can, if you own them on Steam, you can play them on the Steam Deck today. So that vision is there, and the possibility is there. So when I saw the tweet went out today, I'm forgetting her name, but when she put it out, the Edge browser was there, and Game Pass is there for cloud gaming. It got me excited, because is that going to be the primary way I would play games on there? Absolutely not. But the option is there. In a pinch, I can hop on there and do that and play games that way. That's the whole thing about it that gets me excited. So, Miles, I hate you. I love you. I just want a Steam Deck. That's it. I just want one. Yep. Please.
Here at the KindaFunny Xcast, we love options. We love giving the players chances to play how they want. Parris, we do have one question coming in from the best friends. Raleigh wants to know, Parris, what about no Destiny 2 on the Steam Deck? Players' accounts will be banned. What do you think about that? That was a weird news story that dropped last week. I didn't put it in the show, but there was that report where, maybe the anti-cheat or Bungie itself didn't like seeing people going in through the back door and getting into Destiny 2. Some accounts possibly were going to get banned. What's your thoughts on that?
Mine on that is simple, and obviously I'm a huge fan of Destiny, so it's a bummer that you can't do it, but I understand why from, I'm in security, so from an anti-cheat standpoint, if that's going to potentially compromise the integrity of the game, then no, don't do it.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, it's that simple, because look, SteamOS, it's a customizable device. If that's going to allow some attackers to basically go through the back door and do some nefarious things in the game and compromise what otherwise should be, a great experience, be it PvP or doing a raid or whatever the case may be, then no. And until they find out a solution to mitigate that, then don't do it. I mean, it's really that simple. I'm fine with it from that standpoint.
Perfect. All right, guys. Well, let's finish the show with a game that everybody should know about, and a game that has now become one of my most anticipated for 2022. I'm so excited because it was just announced this week. Supermassive is back. And no, it's not a Dark Pictures anthology title to go into it. It's a big title. The Quarry is coming June 10th, 2022. Here's the quick rundown from the Xbox Wire. And of course, I have my horror expert, Miles, to talk all things scary and spooky with me about this game. But here's the rundown. The Quarry is a new cinematic horror game from the Masters of Fright at Supermassive Games. On the last night of summer camp, the teenage counselors at Hackett's Quarry are plunged into an unpredictable night of horror. Every choice you make has consequences and will shape how your unique story unfolds. Of course, as you know, if you've played Until Dawn or any of the big time titles coming in the anthology that you've seen from Supermassive, you know they got a stellar cast. And it was tough because I had to pause the video about 20 times to write down all the names. So I'll give you just a quick couple of them. You have David Arquette coming in, Ariel Winter, Justice Smith, Brenda Song, and so many more. Like I said, this is a larger scale title coming from the team, like Until Dawn. And unlike the Dark Pictures anthology, this is a little bit more tighter gameplay, get you in and out, and being able to mix and match the genres as you go through the anthology. There will be 9 playable characters, multiple ways to play, like we know, single player, local multiplayer with pass the controller, and online mode, where choices are decided by a vote. And of course, if you'd like to kick back, relax, and just maybe put on a scary movie, there's movie mode as well as an option for gamers out there. So Miles, I'm happy you're here. We've got to talk a lot kind of in your wheelhouse. And I know this is big because you have a horror podcast, and this is kind of one of the best horror games around, or this team is. What do you think about The Quarry?
It got me feeling a certain way, Mike. I gotta say, Until Dawn, their commitment to horror. Ooh, as a horror nerd, I love it. They could have gone so many different routes with this kind of choose your own adventure style video game, but they've said, no, we are doing horror and that is it. Seeing this cast, Mike, as a horror nerd, Ted Raimi, David Arquette from Scream fame, like so many, Lance Henriksen, so many legends. So many horror legends in this. They know what they're doing. And this is obviously kind of a spiritual reboot to Until Dawn. This is taking the campy summer camp vibe of 80s slashers and bringing it into the modern era. I'm excited, dude. This came out of nowhere, and we're going to be playing it in a few months. Like you said, I'm in the similar camp. This shot straight up to the top. Actually, right below Evil Dead, the game is The Quarry, because I trust them. This looks like a bigger budget project than the Dark Pictures anthologies, which I've liked but not loved for the most part, I gotta say. Some strong outings there and some not so strong. But The Quarry, let's go, dude. Let's get campy. Let's get cheesy. Let's get the squad together on the couch with some beers and interact with a terrible horror movie.
Parris, Lily, what are your thoughts on this? Are you a horror guy? What do you think?
I mean, I'm not a super big horror guy, but this does look interesting, though. And obviously, such a strong cast that you have being a part of this. So, I mean, it's on my radar to check out. Shout out to Danny Pena. He was super excited about this. He's a fan of Until Dawn. So seeing this come along, I mean, yeah, looks great. So definitely want to see more about it. And it is this year, right?
Yep, June 10th, right around the corner.
That's right. Yep.
And I just want to shout out any developers of the Quarry from the team who might be listening to our content, because the other day we pointed out on their website that they had Ted Raimi's name spelled wrong. That has been updated. Good job.
Oh,
everybody.
wow.
Good job.
Oh,
everybody.
that's
so
awesome. That's awesome. Yeah, I mean, Supermassive Games, I fell in love with Until Dawn, and I was really excited about the idea of course, it coming multi-platform with the next games of the Dark Pictures anthology. And I'm right there with you, Miles. I think for me, it's been an upward trend, which is a positive, right? I think they started off a little shaky with Man of Medan, and I've actually liked Little Hope and then into House of Ashes. So I'm really pleased with how they've gone up. And I think the question has always been, do you vibe with the smaller genre hopping of the horror games that they've done with that Dark Pictures anthology, or do I want them to go back to the big title? And this is exactly what I do want, of course. And there's something really special about this studio, Supermassive. Their character models and the world that they create is unlike any other. I mean, it looks way too good. It's scary because I think sometimes I'm watching a movie with those actors, and it is really impressive to see. So I can't wait to see what kind of twists and turns that they could bring to us. Miles, you brought up kind of the campy horror slasher teenage, film over here. What makes a good horror game and movie, of course? Like, what do you expect out of this one? What kind of twists and turns do you want to see?
What made Until Dawn so special was the fact that there were all these twists and turns, and your interactions drastically impacted the story and the characters. So that's what I want to see. They've got the setup. You've got the teens trying to party, which is for campy horror, that is an essential. So they've got the foundation laid there. You got David Arquette as the seasoned veteran who's probably been around the block. He's seen some stuff in his day. He knows something is mysterious in this area. And now what they need to do is they need to keep me guessing. They need to, any good horror movie gives you the red herrings. They bait you into thinking it's this, and then bam, hit me with something weird. Let's get way out there with it. And again, a great horror movie. I will give a huge shout out to James Wan and Malignant. If you haven't watched that and you love horror movies, watch Malignant, because it has the most ridiculous, nonsensical twist that I've ever seen, and is the first time in a long time where I watched a horror movie and I could not believe that they went there. They did something that I did not expect and have never seen in a movie, and it was magical. My wife and I were laughing out loud because of how outrageous the twist was. Some people didn't like the twist. I was applauding in my living room because they just absolutely nailed it. So for me, that is my hope for the Quarry, is that they subvert expectations and do something that isn't just an homage to campy slasher movies.
Love it. I'm so excited for this one. I can't wait for June. I'm so happy it's right around the corner when we talk about games being announced and then them being right there. This is like the dream situation here. So I don't have to wait long for something I'm so excited for. But you know what? You do have to wait a little bit for another episode of the KindaFunny Xcast, because this is it. This is the end of it right here. So I hope you had a terrific start to your weekend. Hope you enjoyed the content. I want to give a big thank you to Miles for coming in and hanging out with us. Miles, you're a great friend of mine and Parris and Barrett here on the show. We appreciate you filling in for Gary. I guess one last roundabout. Where can people find you? What cool stuff are you doing before we get out of here?
Appreciate you guys having me on. Always a blast. Always love talking games with you. Flies by. If you want to get a hold of me, you can hit me up on Twitter at Miles Dompier. And if you want to check out what I'm working on, you can just go to youtube.com/Windows Central Gaming or windowscentral.com. I am a writer and video producer over there, and that is where most of my professional works are. And that's it. I'll keep it short and sweet.
Thanks, Miles. And of course, Parris, I kick it to you, Big Dog, because I'm thinking, man, we got hoops. We got college hoops all weekend. We got new games coming to Game Pass. Spring is in the air. Hopefully you and the family are getting outside, at least enjoying some sun rays. What are you up to this weekend? You got anything fun planned?
Well, yeah, it's spring break officially
now. Oh, yes.
Kids. So gonna do a little something for that. But I shouldn't say more important than that, because family is the most important thing. So I will also say Tom Brady's back. The GOAT's back. Sports is back. The Lakers are terrible, but the Bucks are back. So I'm good.
You're the best. Thank you to, of course, Miles, Parris, and Barrett running the ones and twos for another awesome episode. Shout out to all the KindaFunny best friends who watch live via Patreon. And of course, each and every one of you watching over on YouTube or on your favorite podcast service. Thank you for tuning in. Thanks for being a part of the conversation. Let us know your thoughts on the initiative, Perfect Dark, your dreams and desires, of course, the excitement of what will be Starfield, and so much more. So hope you play Shredders, hope you play some Tunic, and we'll talk to you next week. With that, goodbye, everybody. Take care. See ya.